we're going to draw a line. So we're going to use the line segment tool. It's at the bottom of all the shape tools. And it's all the same stuff applies. So if you click and drag, so I've got a black fill, I've got a stroke of 11, and so you can see that here. If you hit shift and drag, it keeps it, I can't make it go off of that axis there. If I let go, then I can drag it wherever. So if you hit shift, then it stays where you want it to. All right, so for this particular thing, we are creating a little line that's going to go behind. You could either do little boxes or you can just do one line here. So I'm just going to, if you hit shift and drag, it'll still keep it even. And then you can kind of decide how big do you want it to be. I'm going to move my little guys a little bit closer. And then on this other image, they're a little bit fatter in relation to what I've got. So I'm going to make, right now the stroke is black and the fill is 0. I'm just going to make my stroke maybe 18. And that probably works well. And I'm just going to send that to the back. So object, arrange, send to back. And there you go. Now I've got my little satellite dish going on. So I'm going to select all of it. And you can resize this whole thing together by going to the selection tool and then choose object and transform. Whoops. And we're going to scale. And we're going to do it uniform. And so let's say we want it to be like 50%. We'll do this like half the size of what it is. That makes sense. And I'm going to also click on scale, strokes, and effects. So right now you can see there's a preview button that is clicked. So if you want to see what you're doing, then do that. And the other thing you can do is I'm going to do transform patterns too. So all of these things have to be clicked in order to make everything the right size. Let's see, what does that do? Yeah, see how fat the stroke is if I don't click on that? The other thing you can do, and I do this a lot when I'm resizing things, is I will hit copy. And if you do that, you retain your original piece and you also get your copy piece that's in a different size so that you don't have to keep just doing undo. You can try it out in different sizes if you want. So I'm going to just delete that one because I don't want a whole bunch of copies. Whoops, I don't want to do that. I want to select all of this. I want to make sure I don't select my globe there. I do not like my situation here, so I'm going to hit shift and shift. So the nice thing about doing object and transform is that because you can scale all this stuff, then you don't have to redo all of your work if something doesn't scale right, like if you just shift and click, shift and drag. So let's see what 25%, that's wrong direction. So let's do 75. Just a little bit smaller, maybe 65. And so you can kind of go through and kind of decide how big you want it. I'm going to do okay, and then I'm going to pop this up a little bit. So hopefully it looks a little bit more. I guess they've got more of the triangle showing. So fine, whatever. It's up to you, however you want to do it. So now we are going to we're going to drag all of this. Make sure you have everything selected. And now we're going to go up to Object and Group. I'm going to group all of those things and then drag them over here. So then that way, if I click off of that and I've got like the globe here, like it can be tricky trying to select everything and not select stuff that you don't want. But if you group it, then you can just select it and then you don't have to worry about deselecting a bunch of things. Yes, I think that, well, we just created the line. All right, let's go ahead and do the stars. So I know you've guessed this already, but we're going to use the star tool to create stars. Isn't that clever? All right. So you can click and drag, and so you get like the typical number of stars. You can turn it, you can hit shift and it squares it up for you. Tiny, huge. So whatever you want to do for that and turn it whatever direction. So that's one way to do it. And then you can go to your, well, here, let me show you this first. If you click on the background, then you can tell it if you want more points. You can change the radius, which changes how sharp the points are. I'm just going to do, so there's my 7 points. And then I'm going to go to my selection tool, right? No, that's not going to do it. I want to change the points on my star. I guess I don't get to do that one afterwards. So we'll just do it this way. So if you want to change the radius 1, so let's do that to like 3, and we'll do 6-pointed star. So that's not ideal. So 3 might be a little bit too big of a radius. Undo that. So let's try, we'll do that back at 1. And maybe we'll do this at 1.5 and see what that does. So it just changes, you can see it changes kind of the depth of the different parts of the star. And you can always go back, and these are just shapes. So your direct selection tool can get in there. And if you want it to kind of maybe have a little bit of a hand-drawn look, like a little kid drew it, or a little whimsical kind of star, you can change all of those things. All right, so you get a lot of choices with these different stars, whether you want kind of a little cute one, a little pointy one, or a more hand-drawn looking one. You can do whatever you want. And then we're just going to change the color of that, change the fill to some kind of a yellow, and we're going to take the stroke off because I think that's going to look better. And then you can get the fill to yellow, take the stroke off. Or you could leave it on if you wanted to. This is where you can get very creative and kind of draw things. You could put a pattern in there if you wanted, or a gradient. Let's look at our decorative pattern, see if there's anything interesting that might work. The stars are pretty small, so you could do something like that. But then if you make the star smaller to kind of fit our thing that we've gotten, you're going to lose a little bit of that pattern. My star looks a little weird. Make it green. So you have lots of choices as far as what you want your little stars to look like. So how many do we have? They kind of have the little sharp stars. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you can just copy if you make one that you really like, you can copy and paste, and then um, I'm going to delete this one that looks weird. But you can copy and paste. If you do option drag, you can make a whole bunch of copies of your stars and then resize them to kind of fit around in this illustration.